A man was driving his car down the road on what seemed like a normal day. Traffic was light, and everything appeared routine. As he continued driving, he noticed that the car in front of him suddenly slowed down and then came to a complete stop in the middle of the road. At first, he assumed it might be a mechanical problem or an unexpected obstruction. Without warning, the men quickly stepped out of the car ahead. Instead of checking their vehicle, they began running directly toward him while holding guns. It immediately became clear that this was not a simple traffic issue but a planned attempt to rob him. Realizing the danger, the man reacted quickly. He pulled out his own legally owned firearm to defend himself. As the two armed men approached, he fired shots in their direction to stop the threat. The sudden resistance caught the attackers off guard. They immediately turned around and ran away. The entire incident happened very quickly, but the driver's swift reaction prevented what could have been a dangerous robbery. Shaken but unharmed, he remained in his car. On a bright Sunday morning, a woman was driving her car along a quiet road. She was focused on her drive, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere of the day. Everything seemed normal until the car directly in front of her suddenly slowed down and came to an unexpected stop. At first, she assumed there might be a minor issue with the vehicle. However, her concern quickly turned into alarm when the men stepped out of the stopped car. They began walking quickly toward her car with guns drawn. It became immediately clear that this was not a coincidence but a planned attempt to rob her. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the woman acted without hesitation. Rather than freezing in fear, she made a quick decision to escape. She pressed down hard on the accelerator and steered her car skillfully to create an opening. As she maneuvered forward, she struck one of the approaching thieves, knocking him off balance. The sudden and unexpected move disrupted their plan completely. Within seconds, she drove past them and sped away from the scene. The thieves, surprised by her bold reaction, were left behind as she zoomed into safety. What had begun as a peaceful morning drive nearly turned into a dangerous encounter, but her quick thinking and decisive action allowed her to escape unharmed. It's a normal afternoon inside a small neighborhood store. The cashier is behind the counter. Without warning, a man walks in carrying a rifle. He approaches the counter and points the weapon directly at the cashier, demanding money. The atmosphere instantly becomes tense. The thief believes he has full control of the situation, but in a split second, the cashier reacts. Instead of stepping back, he quickly grabs the rifle and wrests control of it from the thief. With steady hands, the cashier turns the weapon away from himself and keeps it pointed safely at the robber, preventing him from regaining control. The thief, now shocked and powerless, the cashier maintains distance and control, making sure no one else is in danger. Someone in the store calls the police. Within minutes, officers arrive and take the thief into custody. The customers, relieved, begin to move again as the situation comes to an end. The cashier's quick thinking and calm response prevented a robbery and kept everyone safe that day. It was early evening on a Tuesday when a man was riding his motorcycle home from work. Suddenly, another motorcycle carrying the suspicious men sped up from behind and swerved in front of him, blocking his path. The two thieves ordered him to get off his motorcycle. At first, the rider thought they were armed. Not wanting to risk his life, he stepped off the bike and slowly backed away, raising his hands in fear. One of the thieves remained seated on their motorcycle while the other stepped down and moved toward the man's bike. He grabbed the handlebars and attempted to start it. As this was happening, the rider carefully watched their movements. That was when he realized something important. The thieves were not armed after all. Seeing his opportunity, the rider acted quickly. He rushed forward and tackled the thief who was trying to steal his motorcycle. The two men struggled, falling to the ground as the rider fought to regain control. Caught off guard, the thief was unable to escape the rider's grip. Meanwhile, the second thief panicked. Seeing his partner being overpowered, he abandoned the scene and sped away on their motorcycle. The commotion drew the attention of passers-by. Several people rushed over to help. Together, they assisted the rider in pinning the thief down, making sure he could not get away. Police were called and arrived shortly after. The captured thief was taken into custody, while the rider, though shaken, had successfully prevented the theft of his motorcycle. It was a quiet evening inside a neighborhood liquor store. 4 men and 1 woman were browsing the aisles while the cashier stood behind the counter. Without warning, a thief walked in holding a gun and immediately ordered no one to move. The customers froze. The thief moved from person to person, demanding their valuables. He reached into their pockets and took their belongings while keeping the weapon pointed to maintain control. The atmosphere was tense, and no one wanted to make a sudden move, but in a split second, one of the men saw an opportunity. As the thief shifted his attention, the man grabbed the gun, trying to push it away. A sudden struggle broke out. The store filled with shouting and movement as the thief tried to regain control. Seeing the chance to stop him, the other 3 men quickly stepped in. Together, they tackled the robber, overpowering him and forcing him to the ground. The woman moved out of harm's way as the men worked to restrain the thief. The group managed to pin him down, holding him firmly until police sirens were heard outside. Officers rushed in and took the suspect into custody. It was a quiet Monday afternoon inside a local store. 3 cashiers stood behind the counter helping customers when suddenly a man walked in acting suspicious. Without warning, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at the 3 cashiers, demanding money. The store instantly fell silent, and the cashiers slowly raised their hands. The thief shouted for them to open the register and move quickly, but one of the cashiers remained calm under pressure. While the robber was distracted, the cashier carefully reached below the counter and pulled out a licensed firearm. The moment the thief noticed the gun, his confidence vanished. Realizing he had lost control of the situation, he turned and tried to run toward the exit. Before he could escape, the cashier fired, stopping the robber and preventing him from fleeing. The other cashiers quickly moved to safety, and someone immediately called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived, secured the scene, and took the suspect into custody. Thanks to the cashier's quick thinking and bravery, the robbery was stopped before anyone inside the store was harmed. It was a normal Friday evening inside a small convenience store. Suddenly, a man burst through the door holding a gun. He shouted commands, ordering everyone to stay still and demanding money from the cashier. Fear quickly spread across the store. What he didn't know was that one of the customers standing near the aisle was an off-duty police officer. Remaining calm, the officer carefully observed the robber's movements. When the opportunity presented itself and it was safe to act, the off-duty officer drew his service weapon and fired at the armed suspect, stopping the threat before anyone else could be harmed. The robber fell, unable to continue the robbery. The officer quickly secured the scene and ensured the weapon was no longer a danger. Other customers moved to safety while someone called emergency services. Within minutes, uniformed officers arrived and took control of the situation. The store was secured, and the shaken customers were relieved that the incident had ended quickly.